Okay, I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring NIGHTREIGN lately. I mean, probably about like 50 hours now. And I just noticed this the other day. Is Gaping Jaw and Dark Drift Knight are back as the Ever Dark Sovereigns. This is the first time that we've had two to choose from of the Ever Dark Sovereigns. I actually have a lot to say about this game being a good and bad live service game, like the best and also the worst at the same time. So just so I could do that, future me play some gameplay in the background or something. So first things first, Elden Ring NIGHTREIGN came out in what, like May or June, like late May. I don't think anybody has expected it to be a live service game. And it's hard for me to even say that it is, but it's also hard for me to say that it's not at this point. So, you know, very different from what we've had before from FromSoft, but honestly, their attempt here at a live service game, it reminds me of what we could have had with franchises like Halo or even Call of Duty. But it seems like as From Software gets bigger and bigger and bigger, they're diverting resources. Well, they're adding more resources, more talent to the team, and they're branching off into doing like little sub studios where they're creating different kinds of titles and different kinds of genres. So for example, this being a completely, new multiplayer experience. FromSoft is not known for their multiplayer by any means, but this being their first multiplayer experience is not diverting resources away from its main story-based, open world kind of experience that you had with like Elden Ring or Sekiro or anything along those lines. Those games still exist. Those games are still being, produced. But FromSoft is taking a different route now with, adding more people to the team with the success of the studio altogether, and creating these new experiences for fans. But being a live service simp myself, I would like to say the good and the bad that this game has when it comes to live service. I mean, for one part is I don't think any of us knew that this was going to be a live service game, at least from the extent that it has been. I mean, the Ever Dark Sovereign enemies, the third phase versions of these bosses that have existed in the game, adding a different element to it, as well as a new item shop that you can purchase items in, once defeating these specific bosses. So I don't think anybody expected these Ever Dark Sovereigns to even be introduced into the game, yet alone there be a new one every week. Week one, which is about 3 weeks ago, we had Gaping Jaw and its Ever Dark version. And then the week after that, we had the Dark Drift Knight. And then just last week, we had the Sentient Pest, which was probably the worst of the Ever Dark Sovereigns, but equally unique and difficult in its own right. And now we're in the 4th week, and we have an option to do both the Gaping Jaw and or the Dark Drift Knight. And, there's been tweets, circulating of the team saying that they're going to be adding different versions of the other bosses, that are in the game, their Ever Dark counterparts. So them frequently updating the game every week, adding new, monster or adding new Ever Dark Sovereigns as options, to battle against is a huge W. But the thing is I don't believe the fans of this game, the active players of this game, or just the casual players of this game even realize that this is a live service game at this point, because there's been nothing, communicated to us in the game that indicates any of these changes and additions coming, in future weeks or updates or patches. I mean, originally when Gaping Jaw came out, it was somewhat of a surprise, at least to me, and I'm sure a lot of other people as well, that this was even a thing that they were going to be adding to the game. So the one thing that I don't think this game is hurting by any means, but the one thing I do think that this game is hurting from is a lack of communication within the game. Because you look at live service games like Helldivers 2, Call of Duty, First Descendants, Warframe, all these other live service games, they have sort of these announcements within the game that are indicating, events that are coming and what to expect in the future of the game. NIGHTREIGN does not do that. When they drop an Ever Dark Sovereign or a new Ever Dark Sovereign, you have to go to their Twitter page and see an update that's coming out, or if you're lucky enough to catch it, the Steam store on PC, or I'm sure console versions have the same thing, indicate a patch that's coming out that's gonna be the new Ever Dark Sovereign, and like when that's supposed to be, or when the release window for that is supposed to be. But there's nothing within the game to inform the player of these updates coming. As a live service enjoyer, that's sort of what I would love. I would love to be able to hop on NIGHTREIGN one night. If I'm not following them on Twitter or any of these outside third parties, I would like to be informed when I enter the game that, hey, just so you know, Dark Drift Night Everdark Sovereign's coming, you know, in a couple days. You know, so be ready for that, because it's only going to be here for a week. You know, for example, I didn't realize that there were only a week windows to defeat these bosses originally. So when I hopped onto the game and I saw Gaping Jaw was an option, I didn't realize, I was late to the party. I didn't realize that Dark Drift Night was going to replace it the very next day. So I only had a 1 night window to defeat the boss unknowingly. And I only did 2 runs of it. I was like, oh, whatever, I'll do it tomorrow. And unfortunately, I didn't have the option to do it tomorrow because it was no longer available to me. So those kind of things to inform the player on the game that, hey, here's a countdown of how long you have to defeat this boss. You know, if you don't defeat him this time, just to let you know as a courtesy, you know, a new boss is going to be arriving, you know, the next day or next week or whatever. NIGHTREIGN is doing great things as a live service game, but communicating to the audience that it even is a live service game in general is not doing that very well. It's not communicating to the audience what kind of game it is well at all. Because originally when I got this game, I'm sure a lot of other people agree, is I thought, okay, you know, there's this set of content, you know, they'll be adding features like duos and these other things, you know, through patches later on, or even maybe we have to wait for the DLC update to drop. I thought that, you know, the only other content that we were going to be getting was maybe a little things here and there, but mostly we're all just waiting for the DLC to drop, which I was entirely wrong about. Like there has been significant content dropping with these Everdark Sovereigns and the new store options, you know, weekly after the game's release. And honestly, with the consistency of these Everdark Sovereigns coming every week, makes me believe that there's going to be even more content coming before we even get an announcement of a DLC. So I really do genuinely believe that NIGHTREIGN is probably the best live service game out right now. But on top of that, it is also the worst at communicating to its audience that it is a live service game. And I know the diehard FromSoft fans probably don't like the idea of there being some kind of, you know, message board or announcement page or any of these things. You know, as you open the game, it sort of pulls you out of the immersion. But I say convenience over immersion any day. I would rather be informed of what's coming to the game that I love and what's going to be leaving from the game that I love over the fact that I feel like I'm an archer and I'm doing my best. I'm kicking ass as an archer or whatever. You know what I mean? So clearly the game needs to, as a game, needs to be better at communicating to its audience. Hey, this is what to expect later in updates in the next weeks or patches in the next weeks or whatever. You know, especially if they're adding or removing content periodically. I mean, we need to know that as players. But outside of that, let's just give this game its flowers. Let's just give From Software its flowers. Who would have expected this game to drop new bosses, new mechanics, new experiences on a weekly basis after its release? I surely haven't. I mean, it really is giving you a reason to get onto this game every week to experience the new content that's coming out. Because when I originally beat the game, I was like, okay, beat the game. You know, it was a lot of fun, well worth the $40. You know, put maybe 40 hours into the game, well worth the $40. And now I just wait for the DLC to come out. You know, I had a great time with friends, you know, experienced everything. It was a lot of fun. Now we just wait for the DLC and we'll hop right back in and have a great time. But no, now I have to call my friends every week, be like, hey, there's new content every week. Let's hop on and play NIGHTREIGN. And that's what we've been doing. And it's been a blast. So it is really making me think that this game is going to have not just the different variations of the Everdark bosses, but there's going to be more stuff coming to this game in terms of either cosmetics or relics or nerfs and buffs or weapons or enemy variety within the map, or even map change variety with the shifting earths. Maybe these things will come, you know, over time and not just add a DLC update. I mean, we might even get a new, I don't know, playable character, you know, to join the ranks. I really have no idea. So I do know that they're incorporating this duos playlist. I thought that Duos was going to come with the DLC, but honestly, with the way that they've been updating the game as frequently as they are, I suspect that Duos is going to come relatively soon. So honestly, out of all the live service games that I've ever had, you know, from start to the, you know, post-launch updates, nothing compares to what we've been getting here with NIGHTREIGN. It really doesn't. So I just want to get here and rant about Elden Ring NIGHTREIGN and how it is the best and worst live service game out right now. And if you're enjoying Elden Ring NIGHTREIGN, you want to see more Elden Ring NIGHTREIGN content in the future, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll be sure dropping more consistent videos when new bosses emerge and, you know, we defeat said bosses and when new content drops, because it feels like FromSoft is doing a pretty terrible job at, you know, informing their audiences about particular updates. So feel free to use my channel for those kind of updates in the future. Anyway, I just need to get on here, rant about Elden Ring NIGHTREIGN and how great and bad it is at the same time, because it's just, I can't stop thinking about this game. Appreciate y'all for watching. Have a good one. Peace.